As Han Yunseo was tying up her hair, she heard someone calling her name. Stepping out to the stairs, she asked Hyunwoo if it was him. He nodded and offered her a ride to work. She hesitated for a moment, wondering what would happen if someone saw them together. Rumors could easily spread within the company. Noticing her hesitation, Hyunwoo reassured her. "If you're worried about rumors, I can drop you off near the office instead," he said with a knowing smile. Yunseo couldn't help but smile back and agreed. On the way, Hyunwoo casually mentioned that his brother had left early that morning. A wave of relief washed over Yunseo. At least she wouldn't have to run into him first thing in the morning. Last night, standing on the rooftop, Yunseo and Hyunwoo watched the sun setting over the city. The warm hues painted the sky as they talked. How can someone stay exactly the same after 15 years? Yunseo wondered aloud. I doubt he's ever had a proper relationship with that attitude. She reassured Hyunwoo, telling him there was no need to worry. She would avoid his brother as much as possible. Just then, a voice came from behind. "Oh, you really think it's going to be that easy?" Yunseo froze. Turning around, she found herself face to face with Jungwoo. He hadn't left. Panic crept into her voice. "How much did you hear?" Jungwoo smirked. "From the beginning?" Without waiting for an answer, he leaned in slightly. "Well, good luck avoiding me," he said, his voice dripping with amusement. The present back at the office, Yunseo replayed last night's conversation in her head. She needed a solid plan to avoid Jungwoo at home. A strong, steady voice suddenly filled the office. "As long as I'm here, I will strive to bring out the full potential of each individual." Yunseo blinked in confusion. That voice, it sounded familiar. She turned her head and saw her coworkers whispering, their eyes fixed on the new director. "He's really good-looking, isn't he?" One of them gushed, and then it hit her. This was why Jungwoo had told her to try her best to avoid him. Snapped. Out of her thoughts, Yunseo heard her colleague calling her name. "You've been spacing out a lot. Did you finish moving in? You said you'd invite us over for a housewarming party." Yunseo forced a smile and nodded. She had bragged about it so much last week, there was no way she could admit she had been scammed. Her colleague then brought up the new director. "He's Hyunwoo's brother, right? Do you know him?" Before Yunseo could answer, the new director, Jungwoo, started walking toward them. She stiffened as her colleague introduced herself. "Graphic designer Yoon Ji-young, nice to meet you." Jungwoo responded with a polite nod before his gaze landed on Yunseo. "Han Yunseo, Hyunwoo's friend. Nice to meet you." Yunseo felt her face heat up. She had no idea how to react. Ji-young, noticing her pale expression, raised an eyebrow. "Did something happen between you two?" Yunseo quickly shook her head. "I don't remember." But her mind was spinning. It was the first time Jungwoo had ever called her by her first name, and he had definitely heard everything she said last night. Called to his office later that day, while Yunseo was at her desk, she was suddenly summoned to Jungwoo's office. She panicked. Had she done something wrong? As she walked through the office, whispers followed her. The rumors had already started. Stepping into the room, she saw Jungwoo sitting at his desk. Without a word, he lifted his hand slightly. Was he waving her over, or was he just messing with her? Annoyed, Yunseo turned to leave, but Jungwoo's voice stopped her. "Come here." Reluctantly, she approached his desk. "You have a bit of a quirky side," he said casually. That only irritated her more, though she tried to hide it. But to her surprise, Jungwoo continued. "I reviewed your work. It's quite good." Yunseo blinked. Did he just compliment her? He then gave her a few detailed suggestions, and she had to admit, they were spot on. Despite it being his first day, he was already this sharp. She had expected him to summon her just to pick a fight, but his feedback was actually precise. Lost. In thought, she barely registered his next words. "What do you think?" Jungwoo asked. "Huh?" His expression didn't change. "About the fact that someone you wanted to avoid at all costs is now your director." She had no words. He leaned back slightly. "Matters of work can go through the team leader, but I wanted to hear your thoughts directly." His smirk deepened. "Now that we'll be seeing each other at work and at home, Are you still sure you can avoid me? Yoonseo's face burned with frustration and embarrassment. After work outside the office, Yoonseo stormed up to Hyunwoo. Why didn't you tell me your brother was becoming the division director? Hyunwoo grinned. Because if I did, you wouldn't have come to work. Yoonseo glared at him. You're the worst. He shrugged. Jungwoo wanted to be more involved in company matters because of upcoming projects and deadlines. Still fuming, she muttered a curse under her breath. Hyunwoo laughed. You know, he's right behind you. Yoonseo froze. Turning around slowly, she realized Hyunwoo was just messing with her. Her glare sharpened. Do that again, and it'll cost you your life. All she wanted now was to go home. But Hyunwoo wasn't done. Did you read the company news? He asked, still smirking. She frowned. No, why? Tonight is the company dinner to welcome the new director. Yoonseo froze again, just when she thought she could finally escape him. She had to face Jungwoo again.